What's up, Franzén? It's your boy Simon Explode back again. I'm international. I'm in Canada. And in today's video, I'm here at Montreal Central Station, Gare Centrale, Montreal. And in today's video, I'm going to be heading down into the United States of America. I'm going to be traveling by train. I'm here, it's 10:30, I'm sweating, it's warm, I've got my jumper, I've got my bags. We're going to be heading on the Adirondack Amtrak train, 11 hours down to New York City. I was sweating a bit because I saw a queue. I was like, oof, oof, oof. It's the train to Toronto. So we're gonna just chill, get in the queue, and yeah, let's see what this journey's like. Today I'm traveling on Amtrak, the US's national railway operator, on one of their cross-border trains between Canada and the US. Amtrak has 3 of these services: the Cascades between Vancouver, BC and Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon and Eugene, Oregon. The Maple Leaf run jointly with Via Rail between Toronto, Ontario and New York City via Niagara Falls and Buffalo. And this one I'm taking today, the Adirondack between Montreal, Quebec and New York City, Penn Station. The Adirondack runs once a day in each direction during the daytime with a journey time of around 11 hours. There's no overnight service. Well, there used to be, but not anymore. We can chat about the history of the route later on. Our journey starts here at Montreal's Gare Centrale, home to Via Rail services across Canada, commuter EXO services, and the brand new REM train. It's Canada's second busiest railway station, and for some reason also has its own IATA code. Inside, the station is grand and magnificent. Outside, not so much. Many of the entrances into the station are in fact via the Réseau, the underground city, which feeds into the station. Coming from the metro, the nearest station is Bonaventure on the Orange Line, where you follow the signs out of the station, into the Réseau, on a winding trip into Gare Centrale. It's a perfect time to grab one last taste of Canada before heading across into the land of Fox News and radioactive Fanta. Although apparently this Tim Hortons is now permanently closed. As Gare Centrale is linked into the Réseau and the many malls within, you're never too far from shops or restaurants to get some food and bev for the long trip ahead. But there is one thing you'll need to remember about bringing food on board, and I'll touch on that later on. There's a bit of a selection, including a McDonald's, a sushi place, a coffee shop, and some other spots within the station itself. But I would recommend getting some food at a cafe or a shop before getting to the station, because this train south leaves at 11 AM, so you might need to plan tactically. I actually got a couple of snacks and some food the day before, ready and prepped for the adventure. In Montreal, there are no formalities to undergo before getting on the train, but there is an Amtrak ticket office open if you have any questions, want to buy a ticket, or want to be like me and get a printed copy of your ticket like the foreigner I am. The Adirondack will come up on the station boards as train A68 to New York City, and next to it, the approximate boarding time, 30 minutes before, which for us is 10:40, is noted on the board as well. Our train departs today at 11:10. I got talking to some lovely ladies waiting to board who were also crossing the border into the US. We got chatting about our own travels and the obvious differences between North American and European transport. We start boarding about 20 minutes before departure in a much more orderly way than at the ghastly London Euston station, in a single file, with our tickets being scanned and heading down the singular escalator down onto the platform. Let me just say, it is rather dark and dingy down here. Bossman, the train manager, asks everyone for their destination, splitting all the cross-border folk into the front 2 carriages and the rest of the people, I don't know where, somewhere else. Probably in the couple of cars behind the cafe car. Our train is formed of 5 carriages, that's 2 coach, 1 cafe car and 2 coach behind that, and we're being pulled by some big American locomotive. Our train carriage is an Amfleet 1, normally used for the shorter distance services along the Northeast Corridor, covering Boston, NYC, DC and Philadelphia. The Adirondack, unlike the other cross-border services, only has standard class, or as they call it here, coach class. There are no reserved seats, it's a free-for-all, but you shouldn't worry, about not finding a good seat, the front carriage is normally super empty. These seats are big, my people. These seats are big. Much wider than I expected. Much wider than the ones you find here in Europe. In front, you get a table that pops out and extends very far out to your belly button. There's a ton of leg space as well between you and the chair in front. There's also a little seat back pouch for your belongings too. There's a whole bunch of luggage space on board. There's luggage racks at one end of each car, and there's these huge racks above you. These racks can hold a lot of luggage. Just make sure you can actually lift it above your head and you're good to go. The seats also recline quite a bit, but I'm going to show that to you a bit later. Above you there's reading lights if you want to get that educating during the journey. To the side there's a pair of US plug sockets, no USBs on these old boys. If you have a seatmate, it might be a bit awkward because you need to run their cables under or over you for them to reach the plug sockets. Luckily there aren't too many people on board today, so I'm going to be sharing a row with my Tim Hortons coffee and my bags rammed with maple syrup and my new Quebec flag.
Shortly, first stop is St. Lambert, about 10 minutes. Usually get to the U.S. Customs stop around 1 o'clock. That's where the Wi-Fi will kick in. Wi-Fi will be available once we get to the U.S., not available in Canada. There's bathrooms and trash receptacles in the cars you're sitting in. They're not on one side, the bathrooms are on the other. There's trash receptacles on both sides of the car, inside the wall. And there is a cafe car. It's closed right now. We'll make an announcement when it does open up. We'll open up for a little bit and then we'll close it before we reach the border, and then we'll reopen after the border. This train will combine with another train in Albany. We usually get to Albany between 7 and 7:30 normally, as long as we don't have delays. Once again, this is train 68 going to New York Penn Station. Welcome to Amtrak.
Right on time, we're off on our 11-hour, 600-kilometer adventure down all the way to New York Penn Station, Moynihan Train Hall. And I don't know what to expect. We ain't got anywhere to be in a rush, so I think it's time to just vibe. We leave Gare Centrale by popping through the industrial neighborhood of Griffintown and going across the Victoria Bridge, which opened in 1860, on our way to the United States of America. We'll be stopping at one station in Canada, St. Lambert, or Saint Lambert, however you want to say it, before reaching the US border into New York State at Rouse's Point, about 2 hours later. We then stop at a couple more stations, Plattsburgh, Westport, Port Henry, Ticonderoga, did I say that right? Whitehall, Fort Edward, Saratoga Springs, Schenectady, Albany Rensselaer, where our train should be joining up with the Maple Leaf from Toronto, then Hudson, Rhinecliff, Poughkeepsie, Croton Harmon, Yonkers, and New York Penn Moynihan Train Hall, with an estimated time of arrival of 10:15 p.m. As we're leaving St. Lambert, let's discuss the history of the Adirondack. The service first began operation in some shape or form in 1923 as the Laurentian Daytime and the Montreal Limited overnight services, operated by the Delaware and Hudson Railway between Grand Central and the former Montreal Windsor Station. Ahead of the consolidation of passenger railway services in the US as a result of the creation of Amtrak in 1971, the two services were ended. Following a 3-year gap with no services along this route, the Adirondack Daytime Service was launched in 1974 from Penn Station to Montreal Windsor Station. Since then, Windsor Station has closed and services have been diverted to Gare Centrale, and there have been minor alterations in the service along the route, but for the most part, it's basically just been the same thing. I think it's a good time to check out the water closet on board this American train. Typical toilet or bathroom, relatively large and spacious, and in its current state, a pleasant place to go for a number 2 or a number 3. if you're still recovering from a night out on Saint-Catherine. My first impressions rolling through the suburbs of Quebec is that it's a lot more built up than I expected. Seeing the extent of urban sprawl trundling through little towns is so interesting. You've got a whole ass train that runs through to America, yeeting itself through your little town, and you can't even get on it. We passed through the relatively small city of Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, and I'm surprised that there isn't any sort of railway station here, on Amtrak, on Via, or even on the EXO. There's nearly 100,000 people living here so close to Montreal, and they have no train. To be fair, they used to, up until 1966, and since then, they ain't had any trains stopping. Most of the lines that these passenger trains run on aren't owned by the passenger railway companies themselves. They're owned by the multiple rail freight companies found in North America. One big disadvantage is that freight trains get priority when a passenger train is on the same section as one. This can result in lengthy delays to Amtrak trains, for example. As well, it makes it hard sometimes to increase the level of service on a certain route. And a big thing is that maintenance is actioned by the line owner, and if they can't be bothered to maintain the tracks, the passenger trains are the ones that suffer the most. This specific section down to the border is owned by Canada National Railway, and for the last couple of years during the summer season, the Adirondack has been suspended north of either Albany or Saratoga Springs due to the lack of maintenance work by CN to remedy deteriorating track conditions north of the border, resulting in trains being limited to 10 miles an hour when the temperature went above 30 degrees Celsius, severely extending journey times. Luckily, we're chill. We're not traveling the fastest, but we're traveling nonetheless.
Ladies and gentlemen, this time, cafe car is temporarily closed. All passengers need to return to their seats. Cafe car is temporarily closed. Once we arrive, please remain in your seats. Do not walk about the train at any point. The agent tells you to get up, and the cafe car will reopen after we leave U.S. Customs when we make an announcement. Please don't come back to the cafe car till you hear that announcement. If Customs finishes on time, we'll be departing Rouse's Point at 2:50.
We're basically crossing the US border right here, and boy, the train is going slow. You probably can't see it, but the train is literally swaying. We are seesawing our way across the border. Why am I feeling it go like left to right? I have never felt the wheels lift off a track like this. The border stop is happening at Rouse's Point, the first stop in the US, and we're told to stay in our seats until border forces come and complete their checks. The northbound train has its stop within Quebec in the settlement of La Colle. Bossman said at the start of the journey the Wi-Fi would only kick in once we got to the US, and that does seem to have been the case. Let's check how well it handles a YouTube video. It's honestly very strong, but just know there'll be parts of the journey coming up where you're not getting any signal, you're not getting any Wi-Fi.
Once again, 2:15 we leave here, so make sure you're back on board before then. There's a door open in the front of the train. Cafe car's not open. Don't come to the cafe car. We'll make an announcement when it is open. Once again, cafe car's not open. Please do not come back to the cafe car until you hear an announcement.
Let's head outside and take our first steps into the United States of LeBron James and chat about the border process. Folks, we are in the United States of America. We are here at Rouse's Point. The engine is loud. We've got half an hour before we leave. We've got to get an engine photo. Basically, the train stops in the platform. Everyone gets out their passports. I think there's like border patrol that come from the nearby border point down the road. I guess for myself as a British citizen, I had to get an ESTA because I'm on holiday. I also had to pay $6 up to 7 days before traveling for provisional I-94, and then that gets basically sorted out here. Amtrak tell you must get it before you get on the train, but apparently you can get it on the day for $6 US cash only. One person comes, you get your passport. If it's your first time in, or I think if you're international, I don't know, you take a photo, check your passport, scan it on their phone device thing, and they ask you questions, you know, where you're coming from, where do you live, where are you going, how long are you staying for. You might get more questions depending on, I guess, what passport you have and what you're doing. Like if you're just traveling like I am, then it's fine. And then after that, one person goes, and then the next officer comes and basically just asks if you have anything to declare. So one thing crossing the land border or crossing into the US is you can't bring fresh fruit, basically fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, stuff like that. They would rather you not bring stuff like sandwiches, because sandwiches, meat in there. So I literally scoffed out my sandwich before getting to the border. But stuff like snacks, crisps, chocolate, all that stuff, that's fine. Train's leaving back into that way in about 15 minutes. So yeah, let's just hang about. Look, there's a visitor center. Look at that. I don't think it's not open. They come between June and September. Yeah. Wow. That looks so nice. You can see it. I've heard horror stories of the border process taking much longer than the scheduled time allowed. Around an hour leeway is built into the schedule to account for the border processes at Rouse's Point, and the train will not leave until everyone is checked, and it will not leave before the scheduled departure time, even if it's a quick check. It seemed like we had a maximum of, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people on board from Montreal. With at least 3 agents going through the train, it took around 30 minutes to get through us all. There are plans to open up a pre-clearance facility in Montreal, which will allow border checks to be done before or after the full journey, much like the setup in Vancouver on the Cascades train. Now we're in rural upstate New York. Let's enjoy a bit of the scenery before heading to the cafe car for a little snack and an adult beverage. The first stop down is Plattsburgh, where a lot of Canadian folk head across the border to get their fix of American products and low-cost flights to Florida. Big up the Florida Gators football team, number 46, my G, big up number 46, Florida Gators. The run from here down to Schenectady is honestly breathtaking and so cool as we roll through the Adirondack Mountains. We stop at quite a few little cute stations along the journey, picking up the odd person or two towards the next biggest city of Saratoga Springs, along the very scenic Lake Champlain. I feel like everyone knows about the Amtrak cafe car. It's one coach and it sells a bunch of hot and cold snacks, small meals, and a variety of soft and alcoholic drinks. On a quiet train like this, it's a good place to sit and chill, look out the window, or like I see later, get some work done. The prices are what you'd expect for a train trip. $8.50 for a Stella, $2.50 for pretzels, and a $2 tip because I'm nice. That's like 10 quid. That's fine by me. Trip 1 complete. We arrive at Saratoga Springs just as the northbound Ethan Allen Express from New York to Burlington, Vermont is prepping for departure. This stop is probably the busiest we've had so far, and I can't believe I'm in the home of the viral blue water bottle. As we leave Schenectady, I take a second trip to the cafe car. I get myself a great American beer, which looks more like an energy drink more than anything. Oh, and I get a cheeky mac and cheese. I'll say the mac and cheese, yeah, it does the job. It's nothing special, it's nothing too substantial. But boys gotta eat. We also pick up quite a bit of speed here, getting up to 110 miles an hour, you know. Next up is Albany Rensselaer, where we're scheduled to couple up with the southbound Maple Leaf from Toronto for the last bit down to New York City. I'll say, why is Albany just motorways? It just looks barren from the train. This is the proper America I have come to see. Stroads, motorway interchanges, and random gas stations and stuff. It's coming up to 7 PM now. It's been nearly 8 hours on this train so far. I'm not sick of it at all so far. It's been a nice journey. The views have been class, the beer's been flowing, and the carbs have been carbing. I would like some protein, you know, but I might as well just have some more beer.
Folks, we're here at Albany Rensselaer. It's about 7 o'clock. We're here for about 40 minutes. So this is technically a crew change plus changing the locomotive. It's also a rest break because there's if you go up there, there's like a cafe and that. But I was looking at the times, one of them closes at 7, one of them closes at 7:30. So I've had my bootleg mac and cheese. Let's watch the train, the locomotive change up. So there's one thing that's just popped up on my lovely screen. We are on time. We're supposed to join together with the Maple Leaf and leave here at 7:40. It is 7:08, but this is supposed to have left 3 minutes ago. It hasn't left. The Maple Leaf down to New York is delayed, and it's not due to be here until 9:28. We better not be here for another 2.5 hours. I can't lie, we are not that far. Because if I hear on board, I'm getting on. Let's get up, let's have a look at the station here. We've got time. Bossman has confirmed to me. Unless I hear large last call. This is very nice. Look at that. Look at this. Okay, so there's one shop there. There's one shop there. Tasty. Look at that. Okay, I've stepped outside. I can say now I've been to Rensselaer. We're going back inside because we're going back to that train.
Lads, look at this. 3.5 hours late. Yeah? Canadian border, they did border control, all good. Buffalo, the next Buffalo station they left late. But first, I got the Olivia Rodrigo, that little Mexican girl that be crying, and it smells fragrant. Someone's got illicit substances around here.
So that's the train coupled up. We're gonna go back inside because I am not trying to get left behind. The one thing I did realize, if you just saw how that shook the train, yeah. In the UK, they always close the doors whilst they're coupling and decoupling. So yeah, imagine trying to get on and then you just hear that. It wouldn't be looking good, bro.
So seeing that the Maple Leaf is gonna be super late, We're heading off on the last stretch, alone, down to New York City. It's starting to get dark now, so we've just got to make the most of the views that are left on this trip. We're picking up speed now as we slide onto MTA, an Amtrak owned rail. To the right, we get stunning views of the River Hudson. It's a shame that the camera can't make it out that well, but I assure you, it's amazing even in the dark like this. I recommend that if you're heading up north, sit on the left hand side in the direction of travel to make the most of the Hudson views, and on the right hand side to make the most of the Champlain views. Throughout the journey, I found it interesting to see how a passenger train is being operated like a freight train. Engineers manually operating railway points, the constant blaring of the horn, and the slow pace, the slow travel, especially on the Canadian side. As we roll into New York City, I want to sum up my first impressions of Amtrak. This is nowhere near the fastest way between Montreal and New York City. In fact, it's the slowest. It's an 11-hour train versus a 1.5-hour flight, an 8 to 9 hour Greyhound, or a 6-hour drive. The time difference is crazy, but it's also reflected in the price. I paid $75 for a refundable ticket just under 2 months in advance for the train. That's around 58 quid. The flight for the same journey with Air Canada, the only regular and frequent option, would set you back at least 166 quid for a non-refundable ticket with a checked bag. A Greyhound or a Trailways bus would set you back around 60 quid. Bro, flying? You gotta deal with getting to the airport and nose added costs, checking in, liquid restrictions, and airport TSA. That's long. That's not happening. And it's triple the cost of the train. Coach? I've heard horror stories of the Greyhound. The seats are smaller, there's less space to move about, and what if I need to spew or do a number 2? I'm not doing it on the coach. Yes, the train is longer, much longer, but I ain't got nowhere to be in a rush. The train itself is an experience. I'm seeing parts of America I couldn't see from the sky or from a long highway. I can take more bags on. I'm not bound by the restrictions on the plane or on the coach. I got to meet some nice people. I got to buy a proper American beer, proper American pretzels, and I got to relax in a comfy seat with great legroom. It's nowhere near the level and standard of European train travel. But come on, what do you expect? It's the United States of America. Them not in love with their Ford F-150s and freedom. During my trip across the pond, I was able to try out more of Amtrak, and let me tell you, it was an interesting experience altogether. Here we are arriving at New York Penn Station. If you're traveling from New York Penn, I believe that boarding is a little bit different compared to when boarding in Montreal. But there's always stuff sent to you in an email before you travel, so you shouldn't worry too much. Boarding mainly happens from the Moynihan train hall, which is very nice. There's a whole bunch of shops and restaurants. There's a pub. There's the Amtrak lounge if you've got status. And there's a very handy luggage storage facility, which Amtrak passengers can use for a very small fee of $10 if you're traveling on an Amtrak train that day. There's also a whole bunch of subway lines that connect here, and you'll be easily able to get across anywhere in New York City from here. Also, if you want to beat the rush, there are different parts of Penn Station where you can board a train without having to be crowded with all those other people getting on the train. I don't even know what I'm saying. But you can find out more somewhere online.
Okay, right, it's 10:09. It's very warm here are very thin here at New York Penn Station. We're gonna head up to Moynihan Train Hall. It's been your boy Sovereign Explorers. If you like the video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything. I will see you in the next video. I'll catch you in a bit. Peace.